To begin this lesson, open the Shining Stone sample file from your Sample Files folder. And open the code behind file of by.aspx, if it isn't open already. Now you're going to add some code to create an if statement. First, remove all code from the button Submit Order Click event handler and add the following code in its place. Bool accepted terms equals checkbox accept terms dot checked. This code should make sense to you by now. It creates a Boolean variable called accepted terms, which will be true if the checkbox accept terms control is checked, and false if it is not. You created the checkbox accept terms control in the Session 4 exercise. If you don't have this control, you can either complete the Session 4 exercise or download the sample file for this lesson from the ASP.NET Central website. Now add the following code on the next line. If begin brackets accepted terms equals true, end brackets, begin curly brackets, end curly brackets. This is the first time you've seen the equals equality operator. Some programming languages use the equals sign for both assignment and equality. C# uses the double equal sign for equality and the single equal sign for assignment. For example, accepted terms equals true would set the value of accepted terms to true. But accepted terms equals true checks whether the value of accepted terms is true. It will then return true if it is, and false if it isn't. This is a very simple if statement. As you can see, the code is very similar to the code that you've used to create methods. Everything inside the curly brackets will only run if the accepted terms variable has a value of true. In other words, the code inside the curly brackets will only run if the user has checked the checkbox accept terms control. Now add the following code inside the if statement. Response.write terms OK. Note that as well as using curly brackets, you can put an if statement on a single line. For example, if accepted terms equals true, response.write terms OK. Of course, this is only useful if you have only one line of code that you want your if statement to run. Many programmers prefer to use the curly brackets even when they want to run only a single line of code, as this is more consistent and makes the code easier to understand. Now view by.aspx in your web browser. Now complete the form, but don't tick I accept the terms and conditions. And click Submit Order. The page posts back, but nothing interesting happens. Now check I accept the terms and conditions and click Submit Order again. This time, the logical test in your if statement returns true, and terms OK appears on the page. Close your web browser now. As you've seen, it's quite simple to test for a single condition. You can make your program's logic more complex by putting if statements inside other if statements. Just like putting HTML tags inside each other, this is known as nesting. Add a new line inside your if statement and add the following code. If page.isValid response.write validation OK. As you may remember from lesson 4.8, page.isValid is the server-side confirmation that your form's validation controls are happy with the form's content. The if statement will now check if the accepted terms variable is true, and will only check the page.isValid property if so. You might want to do this if you intend to reject the user's order if they do not accept the terms and conditions, making any further validation checks pointless. Now view the page in your browser again, complete the form without checking I accept the terms and conditions, and click Submit Order. Once again, nothing happens. The checkbox Accept Terms control wasn't checked, so neither of the if statements succeeded. Now check I accept the terms and conditions, and click Submit Order. This time both if statements succeed, and the results are shown on the page. Close your web browser now. The first if statement that you created in this lesson is a rather long-winded way of checking whether the checkbox Accept Terms control is checked, but it's the easiest to understand. You could have shortened the code to if accepted terms. An if statement always looks for a true result by default, so this will do exactly the same thing as equals true. You could shorten the if statement even further to if checkbox accept terms dot checked. This works because the checked property is itself a bool value. If statements always work with bool values. They run if the bool is true and don't if the bool is false. Close Visual Studio now, saving your changes if prompted. You've now completed Lesson 7.1. Use the if statement.